Hi everybody, welcome to the JG Show. I'm in the ring with Oki. Oki is a movement specialist. He's going to be talking to us not only about movement, about fitness, about health, about his life in China, and much, much more. Let's do it.
Thank you for the introduction, John, and thanks for having me.
Nice.
It's
so let's
great
start.
to be here.
You got to start. How did you come to China? This is the first question I ask everybody: is how you got to China.
Oh man, okay, I was studying architecture, and it took me a little bit long. You know, I was procrastinating of my thesis, and eventually I said, well, you know what, I'm going to set myself a deadline. Mm-hmm. And I was studying Kung Fu for a long time.
Kung Fu.
Yes, and I was like, I need to go in China.
Yeah. You told me that when we signed up for that boxing class.
Oh yes.
We're gonna get to this later, but yeah,
exactly.
You're studying Kung Fu. That's right.
And so I'm like, I gotta get myself to China. So I bought a ticket to China and I said, before the ticket is due, I need to finish my studies.
Okay.
And so I did, but I had a ticket to Hong Kong and I planned to go to Zhuhai, teach him English, study Kung Fu. But before the ticket was due, I actually found a job in Shanghai as an architect. So I canceled my ticket to Hong Kong, got my ticket to Shanghai, and I gave up my dreams to become an architect.
Wow, so you know what? You were this close to being my neighbor.
Yes, exactly.
Because Zhuhai, I mean, that's
I know,
where
it's around the corner.
Yeah, that's where I met my girlfriend. We're gonna get married next year. All
Oh,
this.
really?
Like, yeah,
Congratulations, dude! I didn't know.
Zhuhai, that's where we
Wow.
met. I have a good history of Zhuhai.
Wow.
Do you know that actually Zhuhai is, I think, the sixth most attractive place to live in China?
I heard so.
Lots of beaches and everything.
Yeah.
So you were
Lots
this
of greenery.
close, huh? And then you went up to Shanghai.
Yeah, I got
you.
this job for a Dutch company, and I moved to Shanghai, gave up my dreams of becoming a Kung Fu master, and became an architect.
Incredible. That is, you see, I don't know if we have enough time to just talk about that little part of how you got into China, Kung Fu architecture. I remember you sent me to Dubai to deliver your displays,
Scale models.
your scale models. That's right.
Yep.
So, and these models are these are of all shopping malls of big developments, right? You get.
Yep.
So yeah, there's a lot to talk about there, but. Probably due to the podcast, the people listening, a lot of people here are interested in health, fitness, how to maximize themselves, how to reach sort of the optimal them. And you have a very strong profile in China for movement, for fitness, for health, and this is a rare opportunity to get you down from Shanghai here on the camera. So let's just stick to this topic.
Sure.
You were here in Shenzhen to give a course, right? So why don't you start, what exactly was that course?
So the course was a MovNat certification, and
Okay.
MovNat stands for natural movement. It's a system developed by Erwan Lecour, a French guy, and derived from méthode naturelle, which stands for the natural method.
Okay.
Same grandfather as parkour,
Okay. Wow.
but Erwan Lecour turned it into a fitness system for that is scalable and that is easy to understand for fitness coaches to implement in their gym.
Okay.
And the theory is very, very simple actually. So I like to say that MoveNat is practical fitness.
Practical fitness.
Yes. So we had this whole wave of functional fitness, right?
Okay.
So for instance, pull-up is functional fitness because
That's
it's not
right.
isolated, but it's a compound movement.
I
correct?
see. So this is the very taggy functional fitness, functional training. It's like maybe 10 years ago that kind of took off, right?
Exactly. But now it's usually overused. Then everything is basically functional fitness, right?
Yeah.
And we say MoveNat is practical fitness. Why? Because all our movement serves practical goals. So I give you an example. I get people to my class that can do 20 pull-ups, but they cannot climb on top of a bar.
They can't do a muscle up. They can't do a muscle
up or other forms of climbing, right? Muscle up is in a way a very inefficient way of climbing. You need a lot of muscle to do a muscle up, right? You need a lot of strength and power.
I see.
There's much more efficient ways to get on top of an object.
Okay, so this is where the practical part comes in. Is
Exactly.
actually performing a movement using, in a sense, the least amount of energy, but then getting the ultimate form of that.
Yes,
movement.
that, but also just a practical goal. So the question is, what are you training for?
Okay.
Right? Are you training just to gain more muscle, or are you training to be a more capable human being?
Nice.
Right?
I like this capable human being.
Exactly. So can you do 20 pull-ups, or can you actually climb on top of stuff? Right? So this becomes the question. And MoveNat basically is based on the movements that we used to do thousands of years ago to survive. Okay. Because we as humans, of course, have spent 3.6 million years in nature, approximately, and that urbanization really took off is only 250 years.
Okay.
Right? So what does that mean? That means that we still have the brain and we still have the body of that life in nature, where we needed to climb trees to get our food, crawl under bushes, run from saber-toothed tigers, whatever. Right?
That's right. Yeah.
And we still have that brain and that body to connect to that. But in the meantime, our environment has changed drastically. And so we get lifestyle diseases, lower back pain, all this type of stuff. In part, because we don't move anymore the way we used to move.
Okay.
Right? And we say the way we used to move was for practical goals. Get your eggs from the nest in the tree, right?
I see.
Get your honey from the thing that's hanging there, or get some other stuff out of a cave, or so.
Whereas now we're in a supermarket, we get a trolley,
exactly,
and we just put the shit in the trolley and we carry on. Oh, exactly. I think I'll take that and put it in the trolley.
In modern life, we just walk, we sit, we walk, we sit, we walk, we sit. Right?
Yes, that's
and in effect, we have seen an evolution of our movement necessity. So what I mean is that before we used to do general movement, right? We used to do these type of things that a human body is made for.
Okay.
Crawling, climbing, balancing, jumping, lifting, carrying, etc. Right?
I see.
And but these days, movement is optional, right? Movement, you do it either for health or for fun, maybe, or for social engagements, right? If you do sports, and very, very different perspective and very different function, right? So the optionality of our movement, what effect did it have on our movement? The effect is that we started to specialize.
Okay.
Right? So these days, you're a tennis player, or you're a runner, or you go to the gym.
I see.
Right?
I see.
So people that go to the gym, they often practice isolated movements, or movements that have as the main goal to change appearance, right? Nothing wrong with that, but it's only a very small part of our human capability for movement.
That's right.
Then you have specialists that do a lot of repetition of the same thing. Right? And maybe you're familiar with Ido Portal, the movement trainer of Conor McGregor.
That's right, yeah.
Right? And when I did his courses, he used to say, you specialize, you pay the price.
Okay.
Right?
Okay, so we don't want to specialize. We do. Well, where's that coming?
So this is not what I'm saying, right? Sometimes the price is worth paying.
Okay.
Sometimes sports is so enjoyable. So I tell you my journey a little bit, right?
Okay.
After I came to China, I wanted to study Kung Fu, but I quickly switched to Kendo, so Japanese fencing. Basically.
Fencing, basically. Okay, yeah.
And with the sword, two hands. And as you can imagine, in Kendo, you always hold the katana, the sword, in the same way, right? Shinai, actually, the practice sword. And you always hit in the same way.
Okay.
Right? And you always stand with the same foot forward. Okay. High level of specialization.
Okay, so always one basic, I see. So you're either southpaw or you're orthodox, and you got the sword in one position.
Just like boxing, you're always standing in this position.
Yes.
You're always like jab, cross, right? But it's a very limited range and variation in movements.
Yeah, I see.
Right?
I see.
So you start to adapt this posture. That means the muscles here might start to get shorter. The muscles there might start to get longer, right?
That's right.
So your posture is starting to be like this. You see that in many boxers.
Yes, I agree.
Right? And this is what Ido Portal means, which is specialize, you pay the price. Of course, if you walk around with this posture for a long time, you will start to develop imbalances. You will start to develop pain, chronic pain.
Then injury comes in. Yeah.
Exactly, injuries if you're exposed to some different movement.
Okay.
Right? Because you have not trained yourself to be strong in every angle. Or in other words, for variation. Right?
I see.
Now get this, when we moved in nature.
It's a key word, variation.
Exactly.
It's a very good key word.
And you have to think, nature provides insane variation. No grip is the same, no step is the same, no jump is the same. You're always adapting to your environment.
I see.
Right?
That's very true.
But we eliminated our environment. We made our environment flat. Right? There's no need to adapt anymore for humans.
Okay.
And so we specialize, and then we develop these imbalances in our body, and then we develop these in adaptability. So these places where suddenly you're pulled in a different direction, right? For instance, and your muscle will rip or something will break, or because you have specialized in a certain posture,
I see.
right? Or a certain movement.
Yeah.
Same reason that a lot of people playing tennis get tennis elbow, or it's just overuse injury.
Okay.
Right?
That makes absolute sense. That's true.
Exactly. So we eliminated variation from our environment. We eliminated the need to move. Therefore, we specialize in movement. Therefore, we become less adaptable.
Okay. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And therefore, we lose part of our human capability, and we expose ourselves to vulnerability. Maybe you're familiar with this book, Anti-Fragility.
Anti-fragility. No. Tell me about this.
So I forgot the writer's name a little bit, but he basically talks about the same concept, but on a societal and economic basis.
All right.
Right? So the more we expose ourselves to very small accidents, right, very small ones, the more the ability of our system, the more our system gets used to adaptation and gets more range of motion or strength in different positions, I might say.
So that's kind of like running barefoot in the forest.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a good example of how to train that.
Exactly.
Because you're going to be out, but then 6 months later, you're going to be so light on those rocks,
yes,
but still able to move and go forward, right?
Yeah, so the pain is part of it, right? But that has more to do with our nervous system. Also adaptation, of course.
Also adaptation, yeah.
But think about this, right? If you run on a flat floor on thick shoes, first there's the heel strike, completely different story. I'm gonna stay out of that for now.
Okay.
Right? But if you run on a flat floor and thick soles, it means your feet never have to adapt. They always land on the same surface. And that means your ankles always land in the same position. Right? But now run barefoot on a trail and your feet are constantly adapting. That means that your ankles need to be constantly in a different angle. Correct? Okay. That means that your ankle is getting strong in all these different positions.
Getting stronger, mobile, more agile.
Exactly. More adaptable.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And anti-fragile. So imagine that you're specialized in this one position and you're very strong in this one position, but then suddenly there's a rock and your ankle goes like this.
You're
snap.
You're out.
Right? So that's fragility.
I see.
You have specialized in one position, but now you're fragile in the other positions.
Okay.
So unexpected events make you suddenly fragile, right? Point out your fragility.
That's right.
So if you practice for variation, you will not be able to specialize so much. So think of a weightlifter, right? So a weightlifter says like Olympic weightlifting, you always look for that little edge to lift a little more. So you make sure that consistently your stance is the same. You make sure that consistently your bar is loaded symmetrically, right? You make sure that consistently your shoes are the same, have the same slope and the same angle, right? You make sure that consistently you wear the same support for your back.
All right, yeah, belt and all this, yes.
Exactly, right? So you make it the same all the time to be able to reach that level of performance.
Okay.
Now, imagine that you're lifting rocks, right? You might stand on uneven ground. You might be lifting different shaped rocks. You might not know how much the rock weighs.
Yeah, so it's testing your grip even, right?
Yes, but you're not training for performance. You're purely practicing to get your goal done.
I see.
Bringing the rock from here to there, over there, building your house. Right? It doesn't matter whether you lift like a 5 kilo rock or a 6 kilo rock or a 20 kilo rock or a 22 kilo rock.
I see.
Right? So this means that you're practicing for a practical goal. That we have eliminated, the practical goals. We don't need to move rocks anymore. We can buy a house.
A house, or we have a machine that does it.
Exactly. So now everything has gone to performance. Goes much deeper into our societal levels of why we're competing, why we're performing. I have whole theories about that. I will also leave that out of it for now.
Wow, yeah. There's got to be follow-up podcasts because this is already this has become very deep. This is very, very deep.
But it's interesting, right?
Yes.
It's interesting. Now, so you're lifting that rock, you don't think about how much you're lifting, but you're in a competition, you're constantly thinking like, how much am I lifting? How can I lift a little more? And for that you need to be consistent. And therefore, again, your body specializes, right? Therefore you get used and very strong in these very specific positions.
But then weak and fragile in the other.
Exactly. But when you're lifting rocks, you're lifting it in this position, that position, you don't know. You don't know how you can lift a rock. So you're creating strength in all these different positions.
I see.
And therefore you become anti-fragile.
I see. Yes, I
right?
agree.
And so this is what MoveNat is about.
Okay.
MoveNat is saying like, hey, we've been busy so long with specializing, but we've neglected our human capability for adaptation and our human connection to the goal of our movement.
Wow, that's really heavy. That's really heavy. What?
It's heavy, but it's serious, right?
That's such a good cause, though, right?
It is
It's such a like a noteworthy cause.
Exactly.
If you're talking about health and fitness, and even if you're talking about losing weight, if you're talking about eliminating heart disease, all of these, this is a good cause to sort of champion, right?
Absolutely. And this is how I came on board with MoveNat. So after during my kendo training, I tried to get into the 2009 World Championships.
Okay.
And I was just not good enough, right?
Wow.
I didn't make it. I'm not gonna lie about it. And so I wasn't good enough, didn't make it, but that gave me space for reflection. So you've been specializing, you've paid the price. Maybe if I would have gone to the World Championships, it would have been worth paying the price because that's an amazing event, right? You get a lot of self-worth from it. But now I didn't make it. And I felt all the injuries in my body and I asked myself, is this still the price worth paying?
I see.
Right?
That's
and then I was
question.
like, no, I need to revise my training. I need to find more holistic training. But as a martial artist, I had a hard time going to the gym, just lifting weights. I'm like, what am I lifting the weights for, And I also realized, like, you lift weights, you lift for higher and higher performance, but it's a battle you're going to lose. We're all getting older, right?
Yeah, and what are
There's
you
no way
lifting
around
the
it.
weight for?
Yeah.
What's it for? Don't you have friends? Go make some friends.
Friends, for instance?
Like you don't need to lift 200 kgs.
Yeah.
I asked this question to Ruben as well about Zhang Wei Li because right before the Shenzhen fight, I managed to get him on the podcast and I asked him, I was like, "What's the strength training? What's she deadlifting?"
Yes.
And he was like, "Well, given her weight class, why would she need to deadlift more than what her weight class is?"
Exactly.
And after he said that, I was like, "Oh, of course. She's not fighting Francis Ngannou. She's not fighting a heavyweight. So why are we actually deadlifting and lifting? It does nothing for us other than lifting that that weight."
So talking to Ruben and talking about these fighters, of course, they're also specializing, right? They're specializing in their fight, getting the right movements, getting the right strength, right? But at the same time, Ruben understands very well what the goals of the training are. So he says, we train for these specific goals, right? Just like any specialization. Now, Ruben, of course, does more general training with them, which is fantastic. But imagine that you're a tennis player and you're repeating the same movement. Tennis is much more specialized than MMA. Right? I mean, like maybe that's a bit of a generalization, but in tennis you run and you hit.
That's right.
In MMA already you have so many hits, and then you have
elbows,
groundwork,
and ducking, and
exactly. And you have the groundwork not to forget, right?
Yeah,
groundwork, very holistic stuff.
That's right.
And so Ruben already knows this. So Ruben's training already very much geared towards quite a whole human being, right?
I see.
Other than even higher levels of specialization.
Yes,
but yeah, Ruben and I are very much connected on this issue, part as well, right? What are you training for? And as a martial artist, I could not go to the gym, I was like, what am I doing this for? And that's how I found MoveNat. So MoveNat, I read into the history and went back to Georges Hébert. And Georges Hébert, a French guy in the Navy that invented it just after the Industrial Revolution, more than 100 years ago.
I see, okay.
He said, être fort pour être utile. Utile or utile, sorry, my French is a bit rusty. But it basically means be strong to be useful.
Okay, be strong to be useful.
And that like hit some
it's
important thing in me.
It's kind of a key. It kind of triggers in your head.
Yes.
Strong. Yeah.
So be strong to be useful means that you have a contribution to society, right? Your strength also comes with some duty or some sense of service.
Yeah, kind of like I want to say the word responsibility.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
it's funny.
Great power comes with great responsibility.
Yes, because that's the superhero in me, right? You see all my superhero stuff. Yeah, because I remember like with like when you carry stuff like shopping, right? So sometimes my girlfriend, she's carrying the shopping bag, And I was like, oh, let me carry it. And she was like, no, you don't, it's fine, it's okay, I can handle it. And I was like, listen, if I have a resume, on the top of the resume is carry shopping. Like that's my responsibility. Yep. You can't train the gym and be all strong and then you gotta carry shopping. Yep. If you're going down like a flight of stairs to the metro or something and some lady's carrying a suitcase, it's your responsibility to carry the suitcase for her. That's just your responsibility.
Now we're getting into a very interesting different area, John. Like something I can hook into, but very quickly, if you carry groceries for your girlfriend, what are you doing it for?
Oh, to make her happy, right?
Is it to make her happy? Or is it to make you feel better?
I suppose it does make you feel better. I mean, I have these guns, they better work, right?
Exactly. But at the same time, you're making your girlfriend feel less empowered.
Okay, yeah.
Right?
That's right.
And so this is very interesting because it's something Maria Montessori was already talking about.
Oh, wow. Okay.
When she talked about children, she said, never help a child with something they can do themselves. Because the child needs to feel that empowerment. They need to feel like, oh, I can do this. Because that's what they build their character on. That's how they learn about responsibility.
Okay.
That's how they learn to make decisions. Can I do this? Can I not do this?
Okay.
Right? And that puts them into a mindset, not of victimization, but of empowerment. You always do everything for someone, they become victimized. They think they're always dependent on somebody else.
Interesting.
Right? Yeah. And so I'm now developing a kids program.
That's right. This is where your kids program, because I've seen you train kids.
Yes.
And I've seen you in Shanghai, which he's like, you're like, don't help him, just let him. And I'm like, that's a little high. If the kid falls and you're like, no, it's okay. Like they'll survive. Exactly. It's fine.
Be there because if something goes wrong, you need to be there. Yeah. Right? But let them figure it out first. If you are in a tree, you climbed in a tree. Imagine you're a kid, right?
Yes,
you climbed in a tree. Now you have to decide whether you jump down or climb down. And you look at the tree and you look at the floor below and you go like, okay, are my legs strong enough? Right? Is the ground flat enough? Am I gonna hurt my ankle? Right? What do I decide? Right? You're busy making that decision.
That's
and
right.
Decision making, guys, decision making is the base of responsibility.
Okay.
Right? Because now when I jump down, if there's nobody there, if I jump down, I hurt my ankle, it's just my fault.
Okay.
I made the decision to jump. I carry the responsibility.
Okay.
Right? But now imagine you are there as a parent and you say, oh, here little John, I will help you down. Right? Now I've not had the opportunity to make that decision.
That's right.
I've not learned to take that responsibility.
Yeah, then you
and what I learn is that in any situation, right, where I cannot make a decision, right? Now I just it's somebody else's job to help me out.
Yeah, you make the decision for me and you take the responsibility.
Yes.
So.
And if you're not careful, if you do this all the time, the kid will go like, oh, next time I want attention, I just pretend to be helpless.
Yeah.
Right, so be careful when you carry your girlfriend's groceries.
That's right, and probably a better result of that is if she were to carry it and she was like, hey, look at you and all your muscles and I carried the shopping. So again, it's that empowerment.
Empowerment,
right? That everyone
sense of independence.
Needs. Everyone
exactly.
Needs. I see.
Exactly, right?
So this is all the stuff that you teach in your courses,
in the kids course, yeah, it's a very important part of it.
This weekend in Shenzhen at the CrossFit Moo location, there was. Are people getting this knowledge from you, or you?
I hint at it. Okay. So, but this is not what the MoveNat course is about. This last part about responsibility. So I integrate this more into my kids course because kids are in this very important, especially young kids, 3 to 6. They're in this very important junction in life where they're developing these things. The brain is still growing, the nervous system is still growing, the body is still growing, and that is the age where they should be starting to set these patterns.
I see.
Do you know the saying, neurons that fire together wire together?
No.
Okay, so as our brain and our nervous system is growing, it is also growing patterns. Okay. So which things connect to each other, right? What makes logical sense to us, right? So if it makes logical sense to me that every time I need to make a decision, Papa John is responsible, right? Then that will become a pattern that lasts all my life, right?
In a sense, you could even say for some things, you could say it's a trauma. It's like even a trauma. You could even go into
absolutely
into a trauma area.
If it becomes traumatic, if it becomes like an injury to the ego, it becomes much more problematic even, right? Than that. So for instance, if you reward your kids every time they get a good grade, and you only reward them when they're a good grade, they will start to attach this feeling, this sense of self-worth to performance.
I see, yeah.
Right? Rather than to effort or to an intrinsic sense of self-worth.
Yeah, or like the journey of hardship, right? And sort of getting
hardship.
the feedback on that and feeling better about that, right?
Yep, and also the sense of intrinsic victory when you have an achievement, rather than that from external approval, right? There's a difference between those.
Okay.
And so that is what I talk about in my kids certification as well. So how do we install protocols? How do we help kids develop that intrinsic sense of self-worth and that empowerment?
That's interesting. This is something I would want to do for my own kids. Do you have a lot of parents that want to learn this, right? They come in and you teach the parents, not just the trainers, but parents as well.
Both needed. Right now I'm focusing on trainers. We're also developing a parents section, but this will be, I have focused for the last 2 years approximately on the trainer section. Now I'm also starting to focus on the parents, because there's a lot of parents that ask for it or that are curious about it.
Yeah.
And
because they want their kids just to be absolute ultimate, human beings. Like
exactly.
Yeah, like my kids are going to be world champions in something. I don't know, but they will be.
So the world champion part, right? This is also that part of modern society that we sort of crave. We crave for that approval. We crave for that super high level.
Yes. Yeah.
So what I say in for my own philosophy is, it's a lost art to be simply human.
Wow.
Right?
This is another good tag word.
Yeah.
I love this stuff. Yeah.
So I don't need to be superhuman.
Okay.
Right now, a lot of people aim to be superhuman.
Yes. Okay.
But to be happy, healthy, without anxiety throughout life, I don't need to be superhuman. But I also don't want to be subhuman.
Subhuman, yeah, that's where you don't want. So it's
exactly.
Just be simply human. Actually, just be a human being.
I want to be able to do normal human things. I want to be able to squat. I want to be able to climb. I want to be able to jump. Right? I want to have these normal human capabilities, and I want to have compassion, empathy, all things that are starting to lack in modern society because of the pressure of competition, rather than the need for cooperation.
Another good one. Yeah, pressure of competition rather than need for cooperation.
Yes. Imagine you're living in a tribe, right?
Interesting.
In the middle of nature. And you're like, on your own in nature, you don't survive. Humans are pathetic animals, right? We don't run very fast, we can't climb fast.
Yeah, we wouldn't.
We're like, we don't have big claws. We're sort of pathetic.
Yes.
But the one thing that we have is each other.
That's right.
So you live in a tribe, your only way to survive is cooperation. There was a need for cooperation. But now, living in cities, the way to survive is competition.
Amazing, yeah.
Right? And so we shifted that. Our humanity has shifted from cooperation to competition. And this makes us want to be world champions, makes us want to be superheroes. Right? So I'm saying, actually,
we were designed to be cooperating with each other.
And all the competition makes us very anxious. We're constantly looking for external approval.
Yes.
We're constantly looking for, and half the time we're stressed out because of we're afraid of what other people think of us.
Yeah.
Right? While other people, they don't think about us at all. They're afraid of what you're thinking of them. Right? And so it's this weird paradox that we're caught up in our modern times.
I see. Okay, it's very true.
Yep, and
extremely true.
Exactly. So people at the time of Maria Montessori, people like Feldenkrais, they already understood this, right? Feldenkrais is the famous movement teacher, and he came from Israel, and he started to sort of explore this connection between our physicality, our movement, and our nervous system and our mental state, our emotions.
I see.
And so the Feldenkrais method is one of the first movements that started to venture into this, and is a cornerstone of what they call somatics, the sort of therapeutic practice of physical movement and emotional development.
Amazing. Amazing. So, like in your entire history, from where you are now, and I understand how you got into it. You got into it by trying to maximize yourself in martial arts.
Yep.
And then, okay, I'm in the gym, but I'm trying to be a martial artist. But how do these two correlate? And then you found MoveNat, and you kind of moved on that way. But your particular evolution in fitness and movement and health. And have you seen any major changes from back then when you first got into MoveNat to where you are right now? Is there like some things you're like, these are some very specific things I believe in that are missing in the world and what I'm pioneering or I'm championing.
All of this.
Yeah, because this is heavy. A lot of what you're saying, this is...
And remember, I wanted to be a specialist. I wanted to be a martial artist. And martial artists, John, they're like the ultimate people that want approval from external, right? Not all of them, sorry, that is a generalization, but a lot of people, right, that get into martial arts, they have a bit of a hero complex.
Yes.
Right? Definitely. I for sure had a hero complex, you know? I want to be the guy with the sword that saves the day, like kung fu movies, be the wuxia, right?
Yes.
Like, so I definitely suffered hero complex, and this is partially why I enrolled in martial arts, why I had such a strong drive to be a martial artist.
Wow.
And so I was in some ways the ultimate example of trying to be superhuman, right? The invulnerable martial artist that knows a counter to every punch, to every
catch
technique.
Bullets and use chopsticks to catch flies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. How superhuman is that?
Yeah.
Right? So I came back from that whole idea, and I said, like, oh, actually, what is it driven by? What is my motivation? And I started discovering my own drive to be superhuman, my own lack of intrinsic self-worth, and I started cultivating that, and I started to let go of this whole superhuman idea and trying to cultivate, and this is something I'm still working on, it's a lifelong journey, trying to cultivate an intrinsic sense of self-worth. And
amazing.
And how
it's
I
very
stand in the
zen.
world.
It's almost like a like a meditation, like a Zen practitioner, like some guru at the top of the hill. It's a constant, self-analyzing, and what are my goals? What's my achievement? What was be strong to be useful. Like, am I useful? That would be the question.
Yes.
You ask yourself, am I useful? What am I doing? Is it useful? Am I doing this just for myself, to self-glorify myself, or am I actually, making a better impact, right?
Yeah, exactly. How much am I busy with myself? How much am I doing this to prop up myself in some way? And how much? So I don't want to call it Zen. It's maybe spiritual, right? But I don't like to attach a specific name to it.
Better to leave it open.
Yeah, leave it open. Everybody has their own interpretation. For some people it might feel like Zen, for some people it might feel like God, for some people it might feel like mindfulness, right?
Interesting.
But it's all like understanding the relation between you and the things that you feel. And that comes, of course, with a physical component.
Okay.
Because all our physical, all our emotions, all our feelings are in the first place visceral.
Okay.
And anything visceral, stress, it will have a relationship with your posture.
That's right.
Right? The way you hold yourself in the world.
I see.
The way you present yourself, the way that you therefore move.
Okay. Very interesting. Okay. This is why I wanted to get you onto the podcast, because these sorts of things, this is really deep. This is really some heavy meat, I feel like this interview is a massive steak, that I'm just biting into. It's delicious.
There's so many branches. There's so many branches that we can go into,
right? We
right?
could go on, but we have to kind of like condense it and then look at maybe in the future if you can get back on again when you get back from
for
Shanghai.
Sure, I'll be happy to.
Let's talk about China and fitness, because this is the first time that you've actually been able to do a seminar down here in Shenzhen. So you're communicating this philosophy to Chinese trainers here in Shenzhen. Is China and fitness and that, and where are we going? Is there going to be more of this? Is this something is this sort of these ideas becoming more prominent in China in the fitness industry?
So first of all, this is not exactly what I'm communicating here in Shenzhen. What I was teaching here in Shenzhen is the MoveNat certification.
Okay.
Right, so which focuses on practical and natural movement. So my own philosophy is reaches beyond that maybe and goes into expressive movement as well,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
playful movement, and
I
the
see.
roles of that.
So MoveNat's kind of like just that beginning, that first entering into these ideas.
For me, it was an entry point for sure.
Okay.
Right, and so we've done the MoveNat certification a couple of times in Shenzhen. In Shanghai. Now for the first time in Shenzhen. But what we have been doing here in Shenzhen is animal flow.
Animal flow. Okay.
Animal flow, or in Chinese, 动物流.
Okay.
And this for me is about expressive movement, which is also very important.
Okay. Why is that? Just a brand of MoveNat Animal Flow, or
No,
is it?
no. MoveNat and Animal Flow are two different brands.
Okay.
So my brand, Movement Origins, brings these two brands to China. So we organize certifications in MoveNat, for which I am the master trainer, and we organize certifications in Animal Flow, for which we bring in master trainers.
I see.
And
so what are the differences between the two?
oh, this is a very good question. I wrote an article on it. You should read it at some time.
I'm gonna have to post this article too. Yeah.
The way that I like to see it is that MoveNat is practical movement.
Okay.
Very important part of being human.
Okay.
And Animal Flow is expressive movement. Just like dance or other things. So there's no direct practical usage, but you can use this movement to express who you are and the way that you like to move.
I see. It's kind of like almost like a personality thing.
Exactly.
What's your spirit animal kind of thing, right?
Yeah, exactly, right? You have
Yeah.
to think, again, from an evolutionary point of view. If you live in a tribe, you can only survive when you're together.
I see.
And how do you make sure that you stick together? You need to communicate, right? So rhythm, dance, expressive movement is a very important part of forming culture. And forming
communications,
culture kept us together, right? It formed our tribe. And it helped us to say like, okay, this is our tribe. I move like this when I'm expressing my hunt, right? The other tribe maybe moves a different way. So I know that they're another tribe. So that means like, okay, we stay out of their way, or we cooperate with them, we're friendly with them.
Yeah.
It gave us identity. It kept us together, and therefore it helped us survive.
I see. Yeah.
Right, and procreate our genes, which is, of course, the ultimate purpose.
I see. Amazing.
And so I say human movement is practical movement, climbing, crawling, balancing, etc. Expressive movement and playful movement.
Okay.
Right. So playful movement is the way we learn, the way we grow, the way we stay on the edge of our ability.
I see. Okay.
Right. Anytime you play, you play rugby, you play in a boxing match, you play. You're always trying to push a little bit further. You're always on that edge of growth.
I see.
Right. And that is the function of play, and that's why it's also something that's essential to us as humans.
Amazing.
Anyway, you were asking about China.
Yeah. So, but this is what these people learned. These trainers.
Yes, MoveNat. So the practical part of movement.
Okay.
And so China is.
Is it growing here? This idea.
I always say situation in China can be a bit dismal, but very hopeful.
Dismal but hopeful.
Yes. So the evolution that I've seen over the last 10 years or so, it's incredible. Like China changes at such a rapid speed, and with that the trainers in China are growing so fast. Their understanding of concepts has exponentially increased since 10 years ago, where it was very, very basic. 10 years ago, like you were here too, and you might have seen trainers here, compared them to the West, and you go like, I don't know where to start, right? But now you walk in and a lot of people already understand so many ideas, and you're like, I'm not sure if I can add value, right?
That's right.
And so there has been an amazing evolution here of people growing their knowledge, growing their skills. There's still a lot of room for growth, so you have to see it as a child that's growing up, and it's growing very fast. It's growing faster than other children, right? But it's still growing.
Still growing.
But now being here in Shenzhen, I noticed that a lot of the trainers and a lot of people, and not just trainers, but also some other people that come to the certification because they just want to learn the concepts, already have tapped into this. So people have come to this point where they're like, oh, modern society and the things our parents were craving for, or the things that I was craving for as a child, did not bring me all the happiness there was either.
I see.
Right? There's more. So there's technical growth, right? People understand more about the physiology. People understand more about just the biomechanics of the body, right? So that was also very far-fetched 10 years ago. But now people understand that when you talk about certain rotations of joints and the way fascia works, and they already know.
Yes.
But there's also philosophical growth, right?
Yes. That's
so
right.
oftentimes we need to go through some sort of crisis of identity to make a big leap in growth. And I believe that a lot of people in China are going through this crisis of identity.
I see. Yeah.
So
Yes.
the same way that you see parents now craving for a better environment for their kids, they start to realize like, oh, our parents grew up under pretty harsh circumstances. Therefore, our situation growing up was lacking in some aspects, and that's giving me a lot of turmoil now in my adult life.
I see.
I don't want that for my children.
Yes.
Right? So they're looking for ways to help their children grow. In the same way, some people that are or are not parents, right? They're like, oh, actually, the concepts that I grew up with, they've proven not to be very satisfying.
That's right.
So I'm starting to look beyond that.
Yeah.
And they're looking for these philosophical ideas that help them make sense of their current situation.
I see.
So you can see some trends towards religion in China, right? But you can also see some trends towards nature exposure. You can see trends towards finding purpose in general, right? And therefore, MoveNat jumps sort of into that gap where we say like, okay, so you went to the gym to get a better body, you're there now, you're still not feeling very satisfied. So what is the purpose of your movement? And so a lot of people that come to the certifications now, they're starting to have basic ideas about that, right? So they have a strong body. They're like, okay, now what?
Now what do I do? What's my next goal? What's my next challenge?
Exactly. And you can see this in Maslow's pyramid, right?
Yeah, that's
you first need to go through this first phases of basic safety, of course, then like self-development, and then you go like, now what do I do with it? And then you go back to society, right?
I see.
Then you give back, then you have altruism.
This is what you're seeing in China now, is that the level now of fitness has gone where people now understand, bicep curl, squat, bench press, I understand bodybuilding competitions, done some of those, CrossFit, that's all. But now what's next? What's the next thing that I can do to challenge myself mentally, physically,
and
emotionally?
not just challenge yourself, but what is the purpose?
What
am I doing this for? Right? Okay, so I've won a bodybuilding competition. Okay, so I have rock hard abs. Right?
But now
what? Now, okay, I take 100,000 selfies, right? Now what?
Now what? What's my purpose?
Did I now find an appropriate mate? Right? Now I have an attractive girl because I have these abs, right?
It's a very good...
But am I happy with this person? Did my abs help me become more happy? I don't know, right?
So this is what you term as like philosophical growth, is going through this process and achieving better.
And hopefully also altruism, right? Where you say like, okay, I need to look at the emotional part. Like, what is it actually that makes me happy? Is that just thinking about myself and my abs, or is that thinking about helping other people and helping other people grow?
I see. So this is what you're seeing now in China. It's actually It's
getting
growing there
to that level, exactly. So some people are starting to reach those levels, right? And this is where MoveNat perfectly connects. So MoveNat can connect at different levels. We can use MoveNat, of course, for physical transformation, right? You can do metabolic processes, but you can also look at it from a higher level, right? You can look at it from a practical level, right? How am I using it? How am I becoming a more capable human being? And then you can look at it on a more philosophical level, so purpose related, right? So this is what very much attracted me in MoveNat. It's not just one level. There's so many layers to it, right? And people in China are starting to become ready for that, and that is something that's very touching to me.
Exciting.
Yeah,
That's really exciting.
sure.
Yeah, one other thing I wanted to talk about was technology. Because right now, you've come now to the office, you're here in Shenzhen, and you know what the Fire Now Mirror is, right? It's an AI interface that tracks your movements, gives you real-time feedback based on what you're doing. So the future of fitness, absolutely there's going to be technology involved, right? And based on what you've seen in the mirror, and I'm really encouraging that if you're able to put some MoveNat and animal flow, at least some initial movements that people can start with to explore what their body can do. You put this into a mirror too. This is something people can start with. But your opinion as well, with technology and fitness, where are we in 5 years, let's say? It's 5 years or 5-10 years.
It's hard to say, John. It's so hard to say. Technology now is developing so fast. And this is part of the scary idea, right? The world now is developing so fast that we cannot predict what's there in 5 years. We really don't know anymore. It's growing exponentially. Think about our parents. The changes that I've seen in 50 years is maybe equivalent to the changes that we now see in 5 years.
That's right.
It took us 3 million years to go from stone tools to advanced stone tools. Now, in 250 years, we went from steam engines to these little computers in our pocket.
That can train it can basically do anything. Chips in our bodies, AI reading.
Yeah, so
tell you tell you you're going to have a heart attack before you even have a heart attack, right?
We really don't know where we're going to be in 5 years. I have no clue. I don't dare to guess.
Because MoveNat, the core essence of it is practical movement. Where did we come from? Our origin. Your brand alone is movement origins, right? And then you look into the future and all you see is tech, is VR, is us in simulators, it's us, I don't want to go anywhere. It all comes to me. Dial, Amazon, get it now. Amazon Prime, go, put the food, chew for me, chew my food for me, right? You know, that's what you see, that's all you see. So if you ask me, the future of fitness is, I believe, parallel, they're gonna grow. Because that's, as human beings, there is this idea of, we're all just going to be on chairs and rolling around again. But there is the other side of what it means to be human, and it's also learning, and more importantly, making it trendy to be primal. I believe in the future, being primal is going to be so trendy. As well as they're going to have the tech, but they're going to be like, look what I can do, a back flip, and look, I can climb a rock and do it. It's going, I think, me personally, I believe that they're both going to work off each other, right?
There is, what's good to keep in mind is that for every thesis there's an antithesis, right? And we see the same thing happening now in our world, right? Where it all moved towards globalization. We now see a very strong movement towards localization again, right? Borders are shutting down. People are protecting their own industries. Wherever we go, there will be a counter movement. But the question is, will they go hand in hand, right, for fitness, or will it split up into two different groups? Will it cause polarization, or will it cause integration?
That's right.
Or will it first cause polarization and after that integration? Right? It's very hard to say. Generally, throughout our history as human beings, we've caused thesis, antithesis, synthesis, right? But now, I think with the exponential growth of tech, I think more and more that historical models might not be applicable anymore, right? So I really don't know in this way. But one thing I'm sure of is that we never lose in this short time period. In this short time period, we can never adapt our body. Our evolution, even epigenetics, doesn't work that fast.
That's right.
Right? So we are bound to this human form. We are bound to this brain that still largely remains primal, right? With primal instincts, with primal needs. And these things will not change.
At least I hope they don't. Jesus.
Oh, well,
I don't
want to be I'm not
symbiotic or like...
it's not about
all
symbiotic.
These gender identities are going to start being created that suddenly they're going to be like, no, you're not a male, you're a female, and you're this and you're that, and you're like, really? Am I? Oh shit, fuck, I didn't know that.
I'm not against change, right? Change will happen. You cannot resist change. But the question is, are you going to be in a lot of pain throughout the change? So a good example is our sitting right now. We're sitting in a chair, right? Chairs are relatively new invention in our history. We used to do a lot of work on the ground.
Squat, we used to squat, yeah.
Squat, sit on the ground in different positions, move on the ground, put our stuff on the ground, reach for the ground, right? If you look in Japan, you can still see that a lot. And you can see that older people there still have a lot more mobility, a lot more health, a lot less pain, right? We invented our chairs, we invented our offices to sit at chairs and work at desks, and we spent that in that position maybe 8 hours a day, right? Maybe more, maybe a little less. And they say chairs are the new smoking, because chairs give you this, that, or sitting is new smoking. It gives you these, and these lifestyle diseases, makes for lower back pain, blah, 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 because you have a lack of mobility here and no strength there, blah, 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 right? Our body did not adapt to sitting in chairs for 8 hours a day.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
It didn't adapt that fast. And so our environment and the tech is changing so fast, our body and our brain can't keep up, and that is causing a mismatch.
Okay.
Right? Between what we are and our environment. And so the question becomes, how do we resolve our mismatch? Is tech going to help us resolve that mismatch?
I see.
Or is it going to contribute and make that mismatch more?
Much more.
The technology of chairs made it more, right? So can we invent tech and can we create tech that can help us resolve that mismatch?
Very interesting. Yeah.
So this is going to be the question, and seriously, I don't know which way it goes.
We'll just have to see.
Looking with a lot of interest at things like the Fire Now mirror, or things like virtual reality, that start to integrate real life movement with tech, right? And you're adapting to a virtual environment.
That's right. Yeah.
So we're starting to create these environments in this augmented or virtual reality or in the mirror that we cannot find in our actual environment.
I see. Yeah.
And this is starting to be a very interesting development for me, and where I can see that some of the tech might start to help actually resolve some of the mismatch between the environment and our human body and mind.
Wow. Well, that's good. It's good to get your opinion on that, because technology, like you said, can also be very scary.
Yeah.
Are we going the right way? And if we are, is there something that can counter it? Like you said, can we push something else that gives people an option of, if you don't have to go down this way, you can also try this, right? So creating, another option. That's sort of what I've been thinking of as well. But it's great to get you onto the podcast.
Yeah, great.
We're going to go
here.
eat some lunch. Oki, when do you fly off to Shanghai?
Tomorrow afternoon.
So you do have some time then. We can get lunch, maybe talk more
for sure
about all this wonderful stuff.
I'd be happy to.
Yeah, this is fantastic. All right, everybody, stay tuned. I've got many more guests coming that are equally as awesome as my boy here, Oki. Wish you all the best, and cheers. Take care.